Greetings, benefit spongers. How are you doing? I've had a long day. Apologise. I haven't even drunk any of this yet, just so you know. So the reason I can't speak is not related to this. But yeah, apologies if I get a flicker on my face during this video. I've been trying to avoid it, but my little funny lights just run out of battery. So I'm kind of boned if it happens. Light is leaving and I am alone. How are you doing? I'm doing quite well. It's been a busy week. Week after E3, obviously. I went up to see my brother on the weekend, which was great, but his housemates party like motherfuckers, so I didn't get much sleep. Not because I was partying, I just couldn't sleep because party. So I've been kind of recovering from that, but I think I've done quite well. Obviously, I've managed to get Ubisoft Abridged up today. I was expecting to get that done for Wednesday, but everything got really pushed back because it's been quite a big week for the Shut Up and Sit Down stuff. We're recording a little video for our Gold Club Season 3 on Tuesday, which was fun. I added that on the Wednesday morning. Obviously, Monday was Monday and Tuesday, because it rolled over. One of the difficult things about Game of Thrones Abridged that I won't particularly miss is the fact that I had to do it on one of those days. And it meant that some days, like this week, because I didn't get much sleep on the weekend, I really couldn't do it on the Monday. And rather than being able to just go, well, don't do it today, you try and you don't make much progress, and you just have a full day of trying and getting nowhere. So it's been a very, very, very busy week. Lots of late nights, but it's almost over. But I feel quite bad because the next week I'm not here for a lot of it. I'm actually going to Glastonbury, which is going to be great fun. But it means from like Tuesday night until the next Monday, I'm just not going to be around. I'm doing my best to record a Daft Souls episode tomorrow, maybe. So I've got a Daft Souls episode for next week while I'm away. There probably won't be an update video because unless I record another update video tonight, which kind of seems dumb, if you know what I mean. So there probably won't be one of them next week. But when I'm back, we'll get rolling. I'm kind of annoyed because I really want to get this FTL video done. I feel like I'm becoming a fucking parody. Oh, and I've had a haircut. In case you haven't worked it out, I've had a haircut. I think it's quite nice. I know some people might miss the Spike Spiegel thing, but it will come back. It's nice to lose some weight every now and then. I feel like I've lost a lot of weight. Mainly because I'm going away to a festival for a few days and, having lots of hair, it just gets really messy and horrible and you go, I need a shower when this will be fine. This will be fine. But yeah, I'm going to try. I don't think there's any reason why I can't, actually. I was worried I was going to have to do this update video tomorrow, but I think I'm going to have the day tomorrow to do some stuff. I may end up recording a Daft Souls. We'll see, but I'm going to try and crack on full speed ahead with the FTL video tomorrow, which should be fun. And actually, I did a little bit of spaceship stuff for a Shut Up and Sit Down video, which I think is going up tomorrow. Not much at all. So I've kind of christened my FTL ship for Shut Up and Sit Down. And it was useful, actually, because while I was making that, even though only tiny little bit, I realised I'd made a few mistakes in terms of my setup for what I was going to do. So I'm really glad that I checked that in advance. Because long story short, using that bloody bike light that you might have seen last week's video, great idea on paper, but then it's like the bike light isn't perfectly in sync, so it goes out of sync with the red light that's in sync in the other, and it's like, if I'm going to do this, why don't I just fake it? Like, I don't need to have a real red light on my face. I can just make the red light. It might not look exactly as good, but Jesus, Matt, what is wrong with you? What is wrong with you? But yeah, I do want to try and get that done, just because I'm aware that it's like, I've still got people who are saying, when are you going to do Sony Abridged? When are you going to do Nintendo Abridged? But it's like, well, I'll probably do Sony Abridged. I've got Monday and Tuesday next week. In addition to a bit this weekend, I'll probably work over some of the weekend, but I can't work over the whole weekend because I'm doing regular features live on Saturday, which is going to be awesome. I always love doing that. Really good fun. So yeah, I think this may come up in a comment that I might read on this video in terms of a question, but just generally, like, even though I've been quite lucky in terms of a lot of people have seen my abridged videos and have signed up as benefit spongers. Hello, if you're one of those people. I kind of don't want to fall into that trap of being like, well, having a big audience of people who just came for one thing specifically, who are then going, do this, and I'm doing my best to make it business as usual. in terms of like making sure stuff like Sponge Squad, stuff like Daft Souls, and stuff like any video projects I have on the go anyway don't get completely steamrolled by the British stuff. But at the same time, you know, the British stuff is good fun. I enjoy doing it. And a lot of people really like them. So I think if it got to the point where after I'd done all the E3 stuff, people were like, do more, I'd be like, no, guys. Like, you know, I've seen a few people already being like, oh, you know, this one's different. This one's not as funny. And it's like, yeah, you know, it's a difficult formula. You do have to mix it up. I'm actually quite proud of the way I've mixed it up, though, actually. I think that the Xbox One is very much a masterclass. Well, not a masterclass, but it's a showcase in doing silly voices and saying silly things. The EA one is sharp and snappy and poking fun at stuff and being just sort of more observational, whereas the Ubisoft one is like a bit longer still. It's like, I didn't intend for them to all be like that, but they have come out differently. The Ubisoft one has come out more with more long form jokes, more build-ups to stuff. I don't know, I guess it's what kind of mood you're in, but I'm happy with all of them. We'll see. Anyway, I'm going to answer some questions because I didn't bloody do any of that last week and I felt bad. That's the Poppadom song. Also, I may have missed some questions here because I've lost track completely of where I got up to. So if I have skipped your question from a previous video, I apologise. Please just like post it again. Sorry, I know it's a real pain. I need a better system for dealing with this, but I need a better system for everything. I could really do with like, it's like the disadvantage of being a solo person. It's like there's so many things I'd like to do. Like some people are like, oh, can we have thumbnails on Daft Souls so we can see who the people are on the podcast? And I'm like, yeah, it's a great idea. But it's like, then I need to email everyone who's in the podcast and say, can I have a photo of you that you don't mind me using? And that's like, makes me seem a bit like Captain Admin. I know some of the people will be like, all right, fine. You have to chase people up when they haven't done it. And you just become like a bit of an annoying guy. And then I have to set up some sort of template so it's easy for me to do it every week. Otherwise, oh man, the admin. But this is one of the many things. Okay. Johan Eriksson asks, actually, he says, this isn't really a question, which is shall I even read on? Let's have a quick look. He's talking about how is the classic quick save, quick load dead. It's talking about loading and saving and design decisions, and is being able to quick load cheap. It really depends on the design of the game. I mean, I think the checkpointing and autosave systems, like, I think it's a mechanic. I do think it's a mechanic. I mean, I don't think there's a right or wrong answer, but I think how your game saves and how your game does that is a mechanic, you know? And if there's any favourites, a real favourite of mine actually was Dead Rising. A lot of people referred to Dead Rising's broken save system. I thought Dead Rising's save system was really cool. I really enjoyed it because it made you die. It made you kind of come to terms with the fact that you were going to die, and it made it made death enjoyable, and it made the process of restarting it enjoyable. But I love Dead Rising. The first Dead Rising game. There's stuff wrong with it, obviously, but I don't think there was anything wrong with the save system. I think it just annoyed people because it didn't exactly function the way that people were used to with games, and I think that sometimes that can rub people up the wrong way. But in my mind, I thought it was quite disruptive. I thought it was quite interesting. And these days I'm very, very fond of roguelike stuff, you know, the whole like, you know, it's going to save all the time and if you get it wrong, you get it wrong. Well, I mean, different games work around that in different ways. Like I think Dungeons of Dreadmore, which I always quite enjoyed, had a thing of being like, so you could keep saving it, but it was like, if your character got killed, then it would wipe all the saves. So it was like, if you got killed, you couldn't go back, I think. And I like that. I don't know. I find that you can end up abusing that stuff if you're not careful. It was an interesting game, though, actually. It wasn't a very good game, unfortunately. I really wanted it to be a good game. Because it was such a cool idea. But Consortium, I played that and reviewed it when I was at Video Game, and I think I made a video and reviewed it, if you want to check it out. But Consortium had an amazing idea. It was like this idea of like multiple realities and multiple parallel universes, and that kind of, within the lore of the game world, explained save files and explained the idea that, you could reload an earlier save file because then you're just basically creating a splinter reality. And I thought that was fucking badass. It's just a shame that the game itself was a bit wonky and shit. But that's a really cool idea. I'd like to see somebody else explore that idea a bit better. There's a lot of people talking actually about what I was talking about in terms of the frames per second stuff, in terms of the FPS, 30 FPS, 60 FPS. You know, it's a really difficult one. Like, lots of people saying, I don't know. I don't get why people are so annoyed about it. I kind of not really going to talk about this anymore because I've just said exactly everything I have to say on the matter. But the final thing I will say is it's like a lot of people, including actually, you know, I mean, I saw a bunch of people talking about it originally, but it was mainly Total Biscuit who was talking about it. But a lot of people since have been like, you're wrong, there's no debate to be had here, there's no conversation. And I think that's always a dumb attitude, you know, like, I mean, you can say the difference is like, I sometimes have things that I am not willing to debate about, but that isn't me saying, like, it's just you can't talk about it with me, you know. It's like if people are like being really sexist or homophobic, it's like they might think, oh, but there's valid reasons for this. It's like whatever. As far as I'm concerned, there's no debate to be had, which means like I don't want to talk to you about it. But I find it a bit strange when I have people coming to me and commenting and saying, "What are you talking about, Matt? There's no debate to be had here." It's like, fuck off. Like, if you don't think there's a debate to be had, then why are you trying to start a debate with me? Right? I think it's an interesting topic, and I think it's a topic which, for as long as we have people wanting to get the best visual fidelity out of games, we will always have people sacrificing other elements of it. And I am interested to know what that means, and I'm interested to know how that can be used to be evocative of other mediums. But I think that saying it's not a conversation worth having or saying that it's just inherently wrong is just kind of dumb, guys. I'm sorry, but like, you know, it's like, it's definitely not. Yeah, it's like, I had one guy on Twitter, I'm sorry, he seemed like a nice guy, but he said like, it's like arguing against science. It's like, no, it's not. Like, it's really not. Like, it's not. That's not, I mean, it's not a good comparison. It's not a good comparison. Anyway. Sam asks, I'll answer this one. Hi, Matt. Really enjoy stuff. I'm not gonna, sorry. I try and avoid reading that sort of thing because it's just kind of dumb. Ends up being circle jerky. That's me pretending to do a big wank. Mentioned that you're off to Glasgow. Who are you planning on seeing? You know, it's funny. I've actually been looking at the lineup for Glastonbury, and there are a bunch of bands who I like who are there. But some of the bands I've seen before. Some of them I think... It's like you get to a point with gigs where you're like, oh, you know, I really like this band, but I've seen them before and they're not that good live, or like, I like this band, but I know what they're like, and they're going to play the new album, and the new albums are very good. Like, there are very few bands who are really, really good long-term who are like real performers and who know what the audience want. I think one of the best gigs I've been to in recent years was I went the Yeah, and it was fucking awesome because they just played the hits, and they had a new album. The new album was all right. They played a couple of tracks of it, and they just played the hits because they were like, they're performers, you know, they're there to entertain you, and they know that, and they did a fucking good job of it. And I love them for it. The two bands I want to see, because I'm going with my girlfriend and her friends, so I'm not going to have like absolute control over what I see. Last time I went to Glastonbury, I went with a good friend of mine who has like an almost identical taste in music, so we just sort of roamed around like musical snakes, having a great time. This time, the only two bands I really want to see are Tune Yards, because I've heard they're amazing live, and I love them. And I think possibly Wild Beasts, because I've been really getting into them lately. I wasn't a big fan of their first album, but now I'm listening to their more recent stuff, and yeah, it's really growing on me. So, but I'm going to take it really easy. I mean, Glastonbury is a lot of people like slag off Glastonbury, and they're like, oh, you know, like it's just people. I think a lot of people don't get it because like it is a really cool place. It's a really cool environment. It's just like having a big closed off city, and everyone's kind of a good mood. I think it's quite good that they have proper IDs and proper tickets, and people can be banned for life because generally speaking, the atmosphere there is really nice. So I wouldn't really go wanky and say it's like an experience, but it's certainly a really enjoyable time, and you do feel... It's one of the few places I've been in recent years where I've felt a genuine weight lifted off my shoulders. You know, you just feel like you can just relax and enjoy yourself. But also getting around, if you become obsessed with trying to see all the gigs, you just get into a mess and you end up being stressed. So I'm just going to go with the flow really and have fun. I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be my first proper holiday for a while. Obviously, I went away for a few days a couple of weeks ago, but I was really ill for most of it, which sucked. But it's funny. It does bring up the interesting thing about brings up the interesting thing about what I do in terms of like holidays. It's like, technically, like, I don't have any holiday allowance with what I do anymore. And that either means I work all the time or I technically just take the piss and just holiday all the time. And I don't want to do either of those things. But it becomes difficult to work out. And especially because it's just like, oh, I haven't quite finished the E3 stuff. And I feel really bad going away because I'm not going to be able to finish it all before I go. But on the other hand, it's like, well, I'll burn myself out if I don't have fun and take it easy. But it does get weird. It's kind of like, I don't think I will abuse it because I'm actually quite good at not doing that sort of thing. I'm quite good at knowing I've got a moral compass that is usually just a fucker. Like, it's a real pain. I think about things too much. But that's probably for the best, especially as you guys, there is a massive degree of trust going on here. But it is funny, I mean, especially in terms of taking time off, taking chunks of time off. I kind of thought this would happen eventually, but today is the first time that actually I got offered some work. I thought I was quite interested in, not full time, but it would be for about a month. And I mean, I can't really talk about it in any detail because even though I didn't sign an NDA, it's sort of a respect thing. I don't think they would want me to talk about it. But it would have been a really interesting thing. It would have been basically working for a month on a different project with some people. And, you know, I think that the only way you really improve in a professional way is by either working with people who are much better than you or by just pushing yourself into positions where you're kind of out of your depth and taking jobs and taking positions and things where you're kind of like, you go into it being like, I don't know what I'm doing. But you learn what you're doing, and that's kind of how you raise your game. And it was kind of one of those things, and I would have really liked to do it. But there were two things. I mean, one, I was already going away next week, and that would have been problematic anyway. But two, I don't know. I mean, I still haven't finished the abridged stuff that I promised I'd do. And also, like, I'm not averse to the idea of taking time off Patreon for various reasons, but I'd like to be able to actually have a kind of give you guys a proper heads up on that. I wouldn't want to ever just turn around and, unless it was for something ridiculous. Like, I mean, obviously I've worked with Charlie Brooker in the past, but if Brooker got in touch with me again and was like, Matt, I want to work with you on this, I kind of probably would turn around to you guys and go, sorry, I'm going to be not here for a week. And I hope you'd understand that. But generally speaking, it's like, I wouldn't want to turn around and do that on a day-to-day basis for something that wasn't, you know, extraordinary. But at the same time, you know, I kind of, there will be a point, I'm sure, where something will come up that I'll really want to do. Partly because, you know, I don't always, but I'm kind of going a bit stir crazy from time to time. I work alone a lot, just me in this room, and you. And you'll notice if you follow me on Twitter, I chat a lot of shit on Twitter, and that's because when I'm taking a break, when I feel like I need a break, I've got no one to talk to, you know. I can't go and do water cooler stuff, so I just sit on Twitter and chat stuff. And there's not really much option. It's like in the same way when you're unemployed, like, you know, you can't, there's not a lot to do because other people are all at work, you know, so you can't, sort of a catch-22. But I know it will come to a point where I'll need to do this thing, and actually I'm not sure how that would work. I need to email the Patreon guys actually and talk to them about this. They've been quite helpful, but I mean, I know they've got a lot of stuff on, and I've asked them for bits and bobs of functionality already, and I hope that they'll add them. But one thing I think would be really useful for the service would be me having the ability to kind of go hiatus. Because really, I don't want to go through the kerfuffle of telling people to not subscribe for a month, you know? Because it's just like I have to send a message out to everyone saying, please guys, can you not subscribe? Because I can delete patrons, but I can't, there's no way I can just sort of mute them. There's no way I can like just turn them off for a brief amount of time. And I kind of feel like, on the one hand, if a job came up that I really wanted to do and I felt like it would be beneficial for a whole bunch of reasons, if I thought if it would get me some really good experience, it would make me better at stuff, and also just like, you know, I enjoy working with other people from time to time, it would be great to be able to take a hiatus and just be like, you know, I'm not going to do anything for a month, but I'm just going to freeze it all and then come back. But there isn't really any functionality to do that at the moment. Regardless of what that will be for, like, you know, it might just be a case of if I feel like, for whatever reason, if I feel like I'm burning out again, I might just want to take a couple of weeks off. And in that case, if I was going to do nothing for 2 weeks, I would, again, want to just freeze it, you know, just be like, don't pay me this month because I'm not fucking working. That seems like a fair system to me, you know, in the same way, like, you take time off work. The difficulty is when you work full time, you can't really do that shit, you know. Not a lot of employers are really open to that flexibility of being like, you know, I need a month off work because I'm going insane. Most employers will just go, what? You've signed a contract. They'd be like, I know, and I want to keep working here, but I'm going insane. So I need you to not pay me for a month, and I'll not be here for a month, and I'll come back. But yeah, we kind of live in a world where things aren't that flexible, which is a real shame because I honestly think that to get the best out of people, you need to be good to people. Anyway, that's a big aside, but something I have been thinking about. And as ever, share your thoughts on that, whatever. If you think it's a bad idea, if you're worried about anything like that, then let me know. If you think it's a good idea, don't worry too much about saying, I think that's great, because that's fine. It's more kind of criticism I'm interested in, beneficial criticism. Anyway. Sam also asks, I'll answer this very quickly, would you rate Wish You Were Here as an influential work of art? Well, I don't know about it, but Wish You Were Here is a fucking great album, and it played a very big part in my musical enjoyment in my first year of university. We're just two lost souls living in a fishbowl, year after year. I love that song. I fucking love that song. Anyway, Chris Jansen asks, maybe it's been discussed, I don't remember, but what's your issue with Apple? I also don't like Apple as a company. I don't remember why. Something overpriced. Yeah, basically he wants to know why I don't like Apple. The reason I don't like Apple is quite simple. I don't like fashion. I'm a big fan of, I like style, but I don't like fashion. And I think that the problem is that what Apple have done is they've made tech fashion. And how they've done that is, it's not just the fact that they spend a tremendous amount of money on marketing and all that stuff. It's more the fact that they've kind of got to a stage where they create products to be a bit expendable because they know that the people who are going to buy them are going to want the new one. And I really don't like that mentality for a whole lot of reasons. I mean, Apple's green credentials in terms of their use of green energy are quite good, but they have a huge amount of wastage and a huge amount of, as do most production things, have ethical issues with workers and stuff. But it just seems to me like this. It seems to me like I cannot get over the ethical issue of kind of purposefully almost creating very expensive, very finicky digital items which are really only made to last for like 1 or 2 years before they start to degrade and start to get replaced. I don't like that. I've never liked that. I buy stuff to last, whether that's equipment or whether that's clothes or, obviously not haircuts. Actually, no, I do. I only get about 2 haircuts a year, so I'm pretty economical with that as well. But no, I've got a real problem with that. I think it's a problem with modern society. I think it's just something that we really need to just look at because I think wastage is incredibly dumb. And I think that... let me see if I've still got it, actually. Where would I have put it? No, I haven't got it. I'm glad I didn't go and start looking around my cupboards because it's not there. It's in the cellar. But I've kept my original, the first MP3 player I ever bought. It's a Creative Zen, one of the early ones. It was like a big silver block with an LCD screen with a blue backlight. And you know what? It's amazing. Like, it came out around the same time as the iPod, back when MP3 players were still a thing, And it was incredible. It lasted me for years, while everyone else... Actually, no, early iPods were quite reliable as well, to be fair, before Apple realised they could make more money by making them less reliable. But it lasted me for about 5 years. And when it eventually gave up the ghost, it was just like, fuck, that, like, I had it with me all the time, and it got chucked around, and it got treated like crap, and it was beautiful. And I think that with all the technology we have in the world, I just think that making things that don't last is just... just feels really weak, and Apple to me now, that's what they embody. The way that it's not just, I mean, there are things that are physically prove that as well. Macs back in the day used to be these incredibly resilient machines. The reason they were very popular is because artists and kind of creatives and stuff would use them because the Adobe suite and Photoshop would run beautifully and all that stuff, and all the tools they had were on there and they'd run beautifully. But also they weren't susceptible to viruses and things, and susceptible to all the stuff that would fuck up computers. And because Windows was all about multiple things, it meant that with Macs, it was more singular. It was more focused on tasks. So it'd be like, I use this to edit photos, or I use this to edit videos. And because it was kind of more singular and more focused, they're often more reliable. And that's fine, I get that. And that, at that point they were good. But then now they've completely changed. And recently I've heard people trying to get their MacBooks repaired when the screen cracks or something. They can't do it anymore because it used to be that the glass on the front and then the actual screen, and then the stuff behind it, all that would be separate components. So if you just broke one component of your MacBook, then you would then basically be able to get that replaced, right? But now they've made it so MacBooks are made in a way that they're actually all glued together, which means if any part of the MacBook fails, you can't replace it easily. You need to actually just get a new MacBook. Now, I understand from an economic issue that actually probably makes more sense. They probably end up being that having to have all the different components, having to spend on the repair, probably ends up actually costing them more than it does to just replace them for people who have them insured. But I don't know. I mean, it's like I read this thing recently about how loads of luxury houses in London, because people have been digging massive basements into their houses, right? Because you can't build out and up without planning permission. So people dig down. They've actually got this point where they dig down so deep that the JCBs, the little diggers they have, they can't get them back out again, right? Because it costs them. They have to get they have to get proper, arms to lift them out, and it means they have to close off the road so they can get the things in, and it just ends up, they've worked out it costs them loads more money and loads more hassle to get them out. So what they've started doing is they've started burying JCBs in concrete underneath the bottom of these houses, right? And up until the point that recently somebody was doing a further, they were going down, they were enhancing this thing. They were like, let's make a deeper thing underneath this house, right? And they actually found they kind of we've hit something. Oh, we can't dig any deeper. They found a JCB in concrete. So it's just we've already got people excavating JCBs that have been abandoned underground because it's cheaper to just bury something in concrete than it is to try and get it out, because they only cost about $6,000. And in terms of London property prices, and we're talking luxury stuff here, that's nothing. It's a couple of cubic, it's nothing. And so, yeah, I mean, there comes a point, and this is a wider issue really of how you feel about just economics and capitalism generally. But I think that sometimes, just if you look at things on the basis of going, well, it's cheaper to do this, so it's better. It's well, yeah, but that only really makes sense if you don't take into account the fact that our world is fucking mental. And I think Apple are a embodiment of that. So yeah, there's a very long answer, but there's your answer. Anyway, let's have a quick look. Stefan C. Bauer says, Matt, having done both the long play format for XCOM and the Dark Souls 2 format, what do you think you'll want to do more in the future? I don't know. It's really difficult. Really difficult. I found the Dark Souls 2 thing difficult just because I kept getting to Sunday and not having played the game, and I was like, fuck, I need to do it again. That's the thing. I'm hoping it will get easier to do that when I now I'm not doing the abridged, not the Game of Thrones abridged stuff, but I just haven't been having the time to play games, which is really bad. I'm still haven't played bloody Wolfenstein. Played a bit of Kid Icarus, talked about it on Dark Souls. It's very good. I don't know. I find myself in a very strange position at the moment, and I don't exactly know what I want to do. And you can tell that by looking at my channel, I do a industry games, industry podcast, I do insight stuff, I do industry commentary, I do funny stuff. And the thing is, industry commentary and funny stuff are both things I can do without really playing games that much. But obviously for the Let's Play series and the series stuff, I need to play games a lot more, and for the in-depth stuff I need to play games a lot more. And I've kind of actually got, as I said, scripted a kind of in-depth my thoughts about Transistor, so it might end up being that I just end up doing that for games that are quite big and quite short. It's really difficult. I really hadn't accounted for how thinly spread it gets being, because when you're working for a website, if you just kind of come up every now and then with odd bits and bobs, it kind of doesn't matter because you've got a general spread of other stuff across the board, which kind of, it means that when you appear, you just do your thing. But when you're the only person producing content on a weekly basis, it might end up being that it's really easy to just not have any insight for a whole month or 2 months, or I don't know. We will see. And also the kind of games I'm really interested in are often games that are really big and really deep. It means it takes so much time to play them. We'll see. I'm not, I'm still in the vein of being constantly a bit insecure about what I'm doing. Not in a damaging or paranoid way, but I always think about it and And I kind of think, well, to do it properly, to do the best critic stuff, I need to actually like make a lot less videos, So I think that's for the short term. Aside from XCOM, I'm not going to start any more serious stuff just because I really want to make sure I actually start playing games more often and actually doing critiques. And that actually follows on to Mr. Nezir Muradov, who asks, will you do reviews like you did for Last of Us and Bioshock Infinite? Yes, yes, I definitely will. And I want to do one of them for Dark Souls 2, and Transistors will be similar, to be honest. Yeah, it'll be something like that, comparative. So yeah, there will be stuff like that. It's kind of annoying because I've been playing so much stuff on 3DS at the moment that, but I can't fucking capture from it. So, and also it's quite old, but it's more the capture thing. It's like I can't really do a video about this because there's no way of getting fucking video off. Thanks, Nintendo. You can get capture, but my god, it costs a lot of money. I just realised, have I already done these questions? I think I might have already done these questions. Oh god. No, I haven't. I've just answered some of them on the actual... Chap called Rhodes, simple question. Do you have any tips for reaching out to... Basically, he's been trying to get in touch with AAA developers and PR, and he got in touch with a developer at Sucker Punch, and then the guy agreed, but then it went to the PR, and then funnily enough, the thing went cold. Unfortunately, that's just the nature of the beast. You can always get in chat with indies. You can do that. But as soon as you try and deal with a big studio, even if people have agreed to talk to you, it will end up... They'll go, oh, I should probably just tell the PR. And then the PR will go, oh, I'll deal with that. And then the PR probably just shut you down because unless you're a big publication, they won't give a fuck. It's just the sad way it works. The only real way you can do that, the only way people get proper scoops and proper conversations is at stuff like GDC or events where they recognise someone and they've met someone before and they go, oh, hey, and they meet somebody and go, oh, yeah, can you talk about that? And then you get your dictaphone out and say, oh, I just want to ask a couple of questions. As soon as you involve a PR, and I know this as an ex-PR, and it wasn't really my choice, but it's just like stuff gets locked down, stuff gets shut down. It kind of sucks, but that's just the way it is. That is just the way it is. Dun, 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 dun. William Donald wants to know how I take my tea. I take my tea any which way but loose. That makes sense. Amazing. Lots of people asking what kind of music I like. I like a bunch of stuff. I know that's not a helpful thing, but at the moment I've been listening to Perturbator, the guy who did some of the stuff at Hotline Miami. He's got some new album out. It's pretty good. I've been listening to The Antlers an awful lot. I've been listening to Wild Beast. Talked about this earlier. I've got some hypothetical sandwich-based questions to do with sausages. I am a big fan of ketchup. It's been controversial. I actually have been missing ketchup recently because I haven't got any. Oh no, I do have some. I just remembered I've got some in the cupboard. What an idiot. What an idiot. Big question about the fact that print media is in a coma and almost flatlining. It wants to know about net-based games media and how they fare. Will they thrive, struggle? They definitely won't thrive. They've been thriving for a while, but the period of thriving is gone. I think they will struggle. I mean, they will continue to exist, but I don't know. I mean, things are bad at the moment. And I think even websites are struggling, and I don't really understand why. I think it's to do with I get the impression it's to do with the fact that the whole advertising market is just kind of fucked a bit because everyone's getting more views, but then it's like, well, what do the views equate to? And especially now with video stuff, like it's all about placement. Like it's not about pre-roll. Pre-roll was a champion for a while, but now ad block makes that a real problem. So the only way to really make money on advertising is to have actually embedded advertising, i.e. like product placement or just general like sponsorship. Or, I mean, I think a lot of big sites are doing sponsorship. So they have like video series or things sponsored by. And if you looked at E3 stuff across the board, you would have seen that. They're kind of open about that. Whereas I think with YouTubers, sometimes it's sponsorship, sometimes it's affiliates and affiliate links. Often it's just straight up dodgy. Like, to be honest, like with some of the big, like the biggest channels on YouTube, they are just basically cutting deals with publishers. It's pretty dodgy. It's one of the reasons I kind of started stepping into the YouTube realm, and I don't know, it just felt a bit weird. I'd feel weird like even taking money from a publisher to do something, you know. I relatively like the guy and stuff, but the sort of, I remember when Total Biscuit did a video talking about like, you know, corruption and what he does, and he thinks that's fine and stuff. It's like, oh, I don't know. I personally, it's not fine for me, you know. If I had, even if it was a games company I liked, if they said, hey Matt, we want to pay you 10 grand to come and commentate on this thing, I'd be like, well, no, like maybe if you pay for my travel and stuff, I'll come and do it for free, but like I wouldn't feel comfortable taking money from a games publisher to do anything for them, you know. If I did, then I wouldn't be doing what I do anymore. I'd be just changing and becoming something else. But I mean, I guess that is horses for courses, whatever, you know. I'm not going to point fingers, because I think it's difficult to know what you're doing sometimes, and sometimes you don't realize you've been doing things wrong until long after. But yeah, not for me. I mean, other things potentially, if there's like, you know, people outside of video games want to do something, I don't know. I feel cooler about that somehow. Like if fucking KFC wanted, I don't know, KFC, I'm trying to think of, if a brand that wasn't related to gaming said, we want to do a little thing about gaming and we'd like you to host it and stuff, I'd be cooler with that than I would be taking cash from a publisher or, you know, a console manufacturer. Just because it would feel like less of a compromise. It'd still be a fucking obvious compromise, don't get me wrong. But, you know, it wouldn't be a compromise that affected my work, if you know what I mean. But hey, what is my work? What do I even do? What the fuck do I even do? I don't fucking know. Everything's going mental. Luke Russell says, I had a dream about Firaxis making a Bioshock game using the XCOM Enemy Unknown format. Would this be amazing? Yeah, yes, it would. Matt, can you get Snorlax to a piece at some point? Asks George Conway. Nah, he doesn't really talk. And I haven't got a cupboard anymore, so I don't know where he is. He'll turn up, it's fine. He likes it. He's like a dog. You let him... No, he's like a cat. You let him go out and just forage for things. Nick asks, as a crowdfunded writer / YouTuber / designer / video maker / gamer / reviewer / haircut, what do you say when people ask you what you do for a living? I've already replied to this, but I squirm. I fucking squirm. I've always struggled to explain what I do to people in the real world, and I struggle now more than ever. Because it's very, very strange, and I cannot believe it myself most days. And when I actually explain it to people, people just don't get it. It's kind of bizarre. I'm like, well, all I say, my description of what I say, to be completely honest, is I kind of make stupid videos about games. And I say, yeah, they're kind of funny sometimes. Sometimes they're like, they're sort of like, sometimes they're kind of a bit journalistic, but mostly I just make kind of stupid videos that are to do with video games, and kind of, you know, just try and make people laugh and stuff, try and make people think about stuff. And then people go, oh, okay. Well, what do you do? What's your job though? And I'm like, yeah, that sort of that sort of is my job. Yeah. And then I end up getting deeper into the rabbit hole of logistics, and everyone's just like, what the fuck? I think people just think I'm about to like try and get them involved in the pyramid scheme or something. But yeah, I always clam up a bit. I always feel a bit I guess it's not really embarrassed. I just don't know how to explain it. I don't know how to talk about it. I mean, it's complicated. Even within my industry, what I do is kind of strange. I mean, it's going to become less strange already. I think it's becoming a bit more prevalent, a bit more common. But it's complicated, and you know, a lot of people getting into it, maybe I don't think are treating it as complicated as I think it is. I mean, I see a lot of people getting into the crowdfunding stuff at the moment. Obviously, a lot of people are doing it before me, like fucking Penny Arcade and stuff. Give us 50 grand, we'll make a podcast. Fuck off, lads. Sorry, I have been drinking. But no, seriously, they can fuck off for that. 50 grand for a podcast? Piss off. I make fucking 3 podcasts most of the time. I wouldn't charge anything for them. They're easy. They're the easiest thing that you can do. Anyway. Yes. Anyway, I worry that sometimes people don't put enough thought into the process and what they're getting into, you know. And people just go, "Oh, it'd be great." I did try and put an awful lot of thought of this before I did it. I was thinking about it for about a month, 2 months before I went anywhere near it. And at first, I thought this was a terrible idea. I'm glad I went for it, because I'm really enjoying it. And I think I've actually produced some stuff and been able to work on some stuff that probably wouldn't have happened otherwise, in terms of like allowing me to spend a month making a fucking spaceship out of CGI. And also just having the extra time, I think, I'm taking longer than I expected to on the E3 Abyss stuff because I haven't wanted to force it, I haven't wanted to rush it. And I'm not saying that in my previous employment they would have been forced, or would have been rushed, but in lots of places, they would be like, you've got a deadline. When I say I'm going to do something to a deadline, I try my best, but if it needs to get pushed back for quality, then it does. And some places don't appreciate that, Some people would be like, well, just get it done. I'm like, yeah, but it's not going to be very good. The jokes aren't going to be very good. I don't feel like in the right mindset to come up with jokes. They just be like, well, you've got to get it done. So, that kind of freedom on a daily basis makes a really, really big difference. Lots of people then just saying, don't cut your hair off. Sorry, it's too late for that. But hey, and I'll try and bash my way through the remaining questions because obviously I didn't do any for 2 weeks, so I'm a bit behind. Okay. Oh, okay. I've just realised this is a massive comment from the same chap I talked about earlier, who was talking about the 60 frames per second thing as science, and it's him apologising for that. Sorry about that. Sorry, Joseph. I didn't mean you any harm in particular. It was just I've had lots of people doing that, and when I snapped at you on Twitter, sort of, I was at the end of my tether because lots of people have been saying similar things, and I was just like, fuck off. Mainly because it's that weird thing of like, why is everyone sharing their opinion with me? Like, tell your friends. Like, why are people just coming out of the blue and just telling me what they think? I don't know. Like, tell someone else. I'm not going to read this out as a question because this is really, really long. It's about 5 paragraphs. But no, I'm not going to read that. I'll read it. Don't get me wrong, mate. I will read it, but I'm not going to read it out. Somebody making the spicy omelette I put on my thing and said it was excellent. I really enjoyed making that video, I really enjoyed making that video. I usually just do the cooking stuff for shut up and sit down, but that was good fun, Every now and then I wake up and go, I want to do this, and sometimes it's not to do with games. So, fuck knows what you'll get in the future. And Benjamin Cooper, good question. Now, it's been said before by Ricky Gervais, but, fuck it. I'd rather be dead. No, I'd rather be dead. I can't agree more. I couldn't agree more, Ricky Gervais. I'd rather you were dead as well. Nah, not really, but he is a bit of a cunt. He's done some good things, don't get me wrong, but he's a fucking cunt. Anyway, Ricky Gervais said, I'd rather be a bad artist than a good critic. And he says, as both an artist in the video is great and a critic, how do you feel about the sentiment? You see, it's difficult. I don't really feel like an artist or a critic, really. I think there's a bit of both in me. I don't know. I kind of get the point, but I think this is a polar thing, It's using critic as a very, very vague term of being like people who just say, this is good, this is bad, people who are arbiters of taste or whatever. But I like to think that even in the videos where I'm being critical, and even the videos where I'm criticizing something, I make an effort to add something. I make an effort to make something which is also entertaining, also interesting for different reasons, So I think you can straddle the two, and I think you should straddle the two. I think increasingly any form of media, especially critical media, needs to be entertaining in its own right. I think how you do that is that's what's important. And I see people I've seen people criticising me and my work on a general level in terms of what I do and how I fit into the industry as being kind of. There are people out there who feel that the way that the games industry is becoming very personality-led and very, very based on individuals is bad, and is not good for the industry and for the act of being a games critic. But unfortunately, games criticism in a raw form, in paid form, is falling apart like a wet biscuit. So it's like, it's all very well to try and be the last bastion, but you'll be the last man to get stabbed in the heart. However, I think that it's really important that you don't get carried away with it. And I haven't always done this brilliantly, I do my best, but sometimes, as you say, as I say, it's all experimental, and sometimes I've got it wrong, and I try and be better in the future. I'm always making mistakes. I'm not going to say I'm not going to make any more mistakes. I'm going to make some more huge mistakes, probably this year, let alone for the rest of my life. But you've just got to learn from them. And I feel like when you're adding a part of yourself into criticism, when you're adding a part of you, or that you need to do it in the right way. And I'm proud of the way I did it in stuff like the Bioshock Infinite video I did for Video Gamer, because it was basically creating sketch comedy, which was not about me. It was about the game. It was about explaining problems with the game, explaining situations in the game in a very quick, funny way that was basically just distilling the criticism into, or emphasizing often, with a little short skit. And actually, I mean, in the FTL video, which I've got scripted and is all done, that has quite a lot of that. The whole point of that is it's like me explaining why the game is good, and then having a little skit, which is me being a shit space captain, showing you how it feels. It's not representative exactly of the game, but it also doesn't feel self-indulgent. I think there's maybe one self-indulgent joke in there right at the end, and that's just basically going, this is fun, this is funny. It's nothing really to do with the game, but everything else is very specifically to do with the game. So I think, it doesn't really answer your question, but hopefully it's interesting. Chris Chalk, interesting. I know I'm saying everything's interesting, but it genuinely is. You guys actually, I was really worried when I started doing this, I was going to have to really weed through the questions and just cut out a lot of stuff. I was really expecting that. I was actually expecting to have to edit them, but most of the questions I get are really good. Or if they're not, then they're just silly questions, which I appreciate. I don't get really shit questions, which is kind of amazing. Chris Chalk says, I said, actually in an earlier video, I said benefit sponges are the only ones that truly matter. And he says, I don't really agree with you that, because if you had the small amount of patrons only and no one else enjoyed that video, it would really ruin morale and the ambition to continue. But he also says, but I'm sure you're not in that position. But that's an interesting thing. It's an interesting point, because basically I kind of, my opinion on this is sort of shifting all the time, in the fact that you're right. I mean, if I treat it as a bubble, if I'm not careful, then if I treat it as a bubble, then I never get any good feedback, because if I only really try and please a very small number of people who like my things, then I get trapped in a bubble where I think everyone likes my stuff and nothing ever improves, or worse, things get worse and I don't notice because I'm not getting the criticism I need, or I'm ignoring the criticism I need. At the second level, obviously at the moment I'm in a great position, but there is obviously I say chance, inevitability that it will slide, at some point. If I left everything, it would slide. People would lose interest, people wander off, and the numbers would go down. And I'd get to a point where I probably wouldn't be able to support myself anymore, and I'd have to decide what I was going to do. I'd either have to ramp it up or just quit. But also I've noticed another thing recently, in the fact that whilst the mindset of not having to care about anything other than pleasing the number of people who are fans of my content, and whilst I still will remain absolutely in belief of that when it comes down to important decisions, the only people who matter are you as benefit sponges. You guys are the only people who, if it's anything serious, you guys matter and nothing else does. But on a general basis, just for personal morale, I need to get, I enjoy watching the numbers go up a little bit. Not to the point of being crazy, but I like it every now and then. When I get a video that gets lots of views, it perks me up. And even though I know I don't need that, even though everything could be happily at about 1,000 views, when I get more than 10,000 views on a video, it makes me happy. And so it's a weird thing having to straddle that. And I know this might seem hypocritical from what I've talked about in the past, but I find this. I mean, this whole thing is a bit of an experiment, right? I mean, no one's exactly ever done what I'm doing now in this exact way. People have done similar things, but maybe as a business, as an individual doing this and having this weekly video. And I've said in the past, I think these weekly videos are possibly, for me, one of the most important and interesting things about it. It's a kind of conversation. I feel like it's a conversation anyway, even though, it's mainly me talking, obviously. But I think it's a fascinating experiment. It's really interesting. And that's one of the things I've learned about myself, is that whilst I know it doesn't matter if, dickhead X from planet Y comes over to my YouTube channel and starts giving me shit, at the same time, I still enjoy the feeling of knowing that lots of people are really enjoying something you've made. So, it doesn't massively change anything, I don't think. I don't think I'm ever going to get to the point of being like exploiting that for hits, because there's a difference. I think there's a big difference internally between knowing that I've manipulated people into clicking on something and knowing that lots of people have enjoyed something. I think that's a big difference. I mean, on a numerical basis, they're identical, but internally they're very, very different. And so I don't think that's a problem. I think that's a problem. I think it's when you get into a state where you feel like you need those big numbers to continue, then you're in a bad place, and you need them consistently. That's when you're in a bad place. That's when you hit the Minecraft. Give me Minecraft, please. Give me Minecraft. But I think every now and then, I think it's healthy. But it's interesting. I'm learning about myself, or maybe just humans. Who knows? We're never as good as we want to be. And Mark Kalanick actually talks. I talked about this right at the start, about this whole thing of being being very careful about trying to please people specifically, and being like, only you guys matter. Yeah, because if it's like, if the patrons got flooded, if the benefit sponger populace got flooded with people who came specifically for abridged videos, let's just say a couple of people who were super famous had tweeted about my abridged videos, and then overnight I'd like doubled my amount, and it was just overwhelming. But then all these people wanted just abridged videos. Then, don't worry. I am like one step ahead of that. That was one of the many things I thought about before I even started doing this. I kind of had a mental list of going through everything that could possibly go wrong with this, and made sure I had at least a vague answer for it. And since then, loads of stuff has changed. Loads of things I thought were right were wrong, and everything's changed. But that's one thing I'm still pretty sure about. In the fact that if people sign up for something and it's not what they thought they signed up for, then they are free to basically just stop. I'm not going to change to suit that. And that's a really important factor of it. And that's why I didn't last week when it got to the E3 week, just completely abandon everything. Even though I did, because I couldn't do bloody Dark Souls because nobody was there. But I've been making a point of being it is business as usual. Things are not going to change just because of that. So, but it's worth thinking about. I'm already kind of one step ahead on that note. But you got to keep thinking. You got to keep thinking. You got to keep thinking. Quite a long video tonight, apologies, and I have been having a little tipple because it's been a long day. I've been up and working since 8 a.m. and it's 9 at night. I had a break for a haircut, but apart from that, I've been working as bloody 12-hour day. 12-hour day. Poof. Trafalgar asks, as do many actually, why am I not talking about Bloodborne? I haven't seen it, I kind of I talked about Dark Souls 2 a lot before release, and I don't know. I mean, I hope it'll be really good. It doesn't surprise me. I'm kind of I've got nothing to say on Bloodborne at the moment, It's it looks great. I mean, it's exactly what I was expecting. From when I first started seeing Dark Souls 2, it felt a bit ropey to me. It felt like it wasn't the A game from Software. And I kind of feel like I'm right, basically. So I've not really said anything about Bloodborne because I've got very little to say about it other than I was right. Because I was right, basically. Dark Souls 2 always felt very much like a B-Team thing. Kind of annoying because I didn't have a chance to put together my video saying this feels like a B-Team thing in part of my big wrap-up of Dark Souls 2. But it bloody did, didn't it? I mean, I had some good things about it, but yeah, you know what? Nah. I mean, a good team can sharpen up the mechanics of a game, but it takes a great team to have that kind of artistic direction to really create something beautiful. And it wasn't beautiful. It was just all right. It was still a better game than most games, but I mean, whatever. I'm really excited about Bloodborne. I'm mainly excited because it's not another Dark Souls game. I think a fresh start for things. I mean, the lore just got really fucking silly towards the end. It just got very confusing. Bloodborne, cool. I'm well up for it. And I'm really excited they're not working. I think they've From Software have basically moved on to do their own thing. I don't think they're going to be. They might be still distributed by Namco, but they're not really. I don't know. It seems like doing their own thing. Quite happy for them. I really hope it pans out well because I don't know. It feels like Dark Souls 2 had some meeting deadlines stuff going on there. You know, there was a lot of rollback stuff, and I get the impression that a lot of stuff wasn't in that game that was supposed to be in that game originally. But hey, we'll talk about that at some other point. Anyway, that's it. Llewellyn Griffiths says that my chat about last time about critiquing critics was mind-numbing when you think about it too much. Too right it is. Why do you think I drink? And he also says, quiche. Quiche cures the stress. I made another quiche this week. It's good. It's not as good as last quiche. Last quiche was roasted cherry tomatoes and parmesan. This one's got kind of mushrooms, spinach. It's pretty good. It's pretty good quiche. I'm not going to lie. It's pretty good quiche. Pretty good quiche. What are you going to do? What are you going to do about it? Anyway. Probably a massive, it feels massive. It's not that massive. Oh God, I'm not talking about anything. Oh no. Yeah, it's about an average length update video. God, I've really got to stop making them an hour. That's a lot of time. But yeah, got to wrap it up, get it up late. Even though it's funny, it's like only about, even though I've got lots of people who subscribe, only about 20, 40 people watch this when it goes up as an early thing, rather than everyone watching them on Monday. I hope that's all right. I hope people don't feel like, you know, don't know. Oh, I don't know. I'm losing my fucking marbles, but my girlfriend's back, and I'm going to go and reheat some quiche and eat some quiche and see what kind of a day she's had. Probably slightly less silly than mine. Anyway, there won't be an update video next week, but feel free to ask questions in this video and I will answer them in the week after, because next week I will be hopefully in the sun listening to some nice music. And if you're going to Glastonbury, if you're at Glastonbury this week, then say hello. If you see me, if you think you see a fucking arsehole with stupid hair, you're like, is that fucking... It's probably me. Say hello. Say hello. Thank you very much for watching as ever, and I'll see you soon. Bye!